Stylistic masterpiece? Or a hidden gem that just misses the mark? Let's go. Okay, everybody, we are going all the way back to 1982 to check out a cool little thriller that gets totally overlooked and totally forgotten and totally should not be. That is Paul Schrader's Cat People. But before we go any further, once again, and as always, to the trailer.
I didn't think you were ready, but you are. I knew it when I saw you with him. Your whole body burns. Make love with me.
I'm not like you.
You can't escape the nightmare without me. And I can't escape without you.
I'm not like you!
Okay, like I said a moment ago, this little gem is directed by Paul Schrader. Good track record? Yeah, let's hit it. Anyway, he did stuff like Hardcore with George C. Scott. He did Light of Day, you remember that, with Michael J. Fox and Joan Jett. And he did Affliction and American Gigolo, come on, everybody remembers that, and Autofocus, and Adam Revisited, and Dominion, and The Comfort of Strangers. So, you know, he did some stuff you're definitely going to recognize, some stuff that's definitely going to jump out at you. Was he in Spielberg category? No, not really, but he was out there and he made some cool shit. All you need to know. Okay, playing Irina. She was the it girl of the moment, for the moment, back in this point in time. Anyway, we're talking about Nastasha Kinski. Here we go, folks. She was in stuff like Terminal Velocity and Tess and Boarding School, and Maria's Lovers, and Crackerjack, and Red Letters, and Unfaithfully Yours, and the Hotel New Hampshire. And she was in a little, really, really small, forgotten movie that I really enjoyed. It was, nobody ever talks about it. It was a movie called Paris, Texas. Check it out if you get a shot. It's out there. It's floating around. Good little flick. All right, playing Paul. Oh, man, we just talked about him not too long ago when I did Blue Thunder. Man, maybe that was a while ago. Whatever. We're talking about Malcolm McDowell. Long career. Let's hit it. He's been in stuff like A Clockwork Orange, obviously. And Caligula, obviously. And Voyage of the Damned, and Cross Creek, and Blue Thunder, and The Passage, and The Class of 1999. And he was in Milk Money, and Star Trek Generations, and Island of the Dead, and another movie that I reviewed that he was fucking phenomenal in. Time after time. No matter what you do, you got to see that movie at least once in your lifetime. It's really, really, really good. Check it out. Okay, playing Oliver. Oh, yeah. Talked about him not too long ago when we reviewed Chud. Anyway, John Hurt. Let's hit it. He was in stuff like Awakenings, and Home Alone, and The Seventh Sign, and Beaches. And of course, I already mentioned Chud, in the Milagro Beanfield War, in Big, in Radio Flyer, in Cutter's Way, and Pollock. He was in a bunch of good shit, folks. Bunch of good shit. Seen him around a lot at the time. All you need to know. Playing Alice, Annette O'Toole. Cute redhead from back in the day. Anyway, let's hit it. She was in stuff like 48 Hours. She was in Superman 3. I don't know if that's good or bad. Take it for what it is. She was in Fooling Around. And on TV, you know, Nash Bridges and The Huntress and Smallville and SWAT and Barnaby Jones, and The Punisher, and Dream On, and even in the Mod Squad way back in the day. So Annette O'Toole, been around a long time, here's what it is, playing Joe, Ed Begley Jr. Oh, some movies, big TV career. Let's hit it. He was in stuff like Best in Show, and Pineapple Express, and Eating Raoul way back in the day, and A Mighty Wind. And on TV he was in everything from Wonder Woman to Battlestar Galactica and Quincy, and obviously St. Elsewhere, and Parenthood, and Providence, and Boston Legal, and 6 Feet Under, and CSI Miami. So, a lot of TV credits. A lot of TV credits. Just the way it is, people. Finally, playing female, Ruby Dee. Oh, been around, folks. Been in some shit. We're talking about she was in stuff like A Raisin in the Sun, An American Gangster, An Edge of the City, and A Simple Wish, and the Jackie Robinson Story, and on TV in like The Stand and Roots, and Peyton Place, and The Fugitive, and even Wonder Woman. So, she's in a lot of stuff, just the way it is, just the way it goes. And there's also some other faces in this motion picture. One of them I reviewed not too long ago in Night Shift. Keep an eye out. And another one used to be on a show called Night Court. Not going to give you their names. Have fun looking. You'll see who I mean. Okay, everybody, we're going to give you this story in 90 seconds or less, so we can keep it fast, keep it moving, keep it entertaining, get to the point where we all much would rather be the summation. Anyway, and away we go. You have Irina. She winds up getting in contact with her long-lost brother. Turns out he's living down in New Orleans. So she goes down there to visit him. Finds out he's kind of a weird guy. A little bit too affectionate. A little bit too much into her. It's kind of creepy. It's kind of weird. Don't know where it's going. Anyway, she winds up going out and doing some sightseeing one day. As she's doing some sightseeing, she goes to the zoo. What does she do? She winds up meeting this guy, Paul. Well, he's the curator of the zoo, and he has this kind of semi-on-again, off-again girlfriend, whatever. Her name is Alice, Annette O'Toole. Anyway, she winds up getting a job at the zoo. The zoo gets a new attraction. Do you know what that attraction is? It's this big black fucking panther. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But where did this panther come from? You see, there's a curse in her family tree. There's a problem in the homestead. She and her brother are cat people. And cat people have to go out, and if they mate, they turn into cats. And the only way to become human again is, well, to kill a human being. Just the way it goes. Her brother got caught halfway through the act. Never got a chance to get himself back to goddamn being human. And what happens? He winds up to be an attraction at the zoo. I'm just going to say through happenstance, he winds up getting out at some point. And lo and behold, reveals the truth to her about who she is, who the family is, and what the whole story is. Meanwhile, you know, Paul falls in love with her, just the way it goes in these kind of motion pictures. And, well, I'm not going to give you much more than that, because you've already gotten the idea. You've already got the gist. You know where this is going. Girl mutates, brother mutates, guy falls in love, another girl loves guy who fell in love with cat girl. There you go. I could have done this shit in 12 seconds, couldn't I? Saved us some time. Summation time. Okay, everybody. What makes cat people work? Well, it's not a movie without some flaws, but I think it definitely works. First off, this movie is stylistically put together. It's really pretty to look at. It's kind of gorgeous to look at in its own right. I mean, you sit there and you say, well done, Schrader. Well done. It's acted very well. Can't knock that. I mean, Nastassja Kinski pulls it off, even though she was very young in her career at the time. John Hurt, obviously. You got Annette O'Toole. They all carry their roles solidly. You got a really good cast. Third, you got a kicking soundtrack. I don't give a shit how you look at it. This motion picture has one of those Giorgio Moroder soundtracks. Everybody remembers Giorgio Moroder. If you're my age, that motherfucker was putting out music all over the scene back in the day. And come on, Blondie, Call Me. He wrote the music to that, folks. Just the way it goes. That was actually for American Gigolo back in the day. Remember? So you got the kicking soundtrack. Got the great look. Got the solid acting. And you got this really cool story about these people who are, I don't know what you want to call them. Apparently they were cats that were fed children as a sacrifice years ago, and from all the souls in them, they became human, and all this weird shit happened, and now they're this super duper duper fucking race that runs around hidden in plain sight. Is what it is. So you got a cool story. All the parts are lining up. Another unsung hero of this motion picture, who you'll never really get to understand or see or look at his work, but it's in it, it's all over, is Albert Whitlock. Albert Whitlock was a master matte painting type guy way back in the day. Now, if anybody who's young here doesn't understand what that means, before the wonderful days of CGI, and they could make everything look big and beautiful by shooting you in front of a doorway and putting a city behind it, they would actually have to get somebody to paint on a piece of glass and put that in front of the actors so that it would line up with the camera, and it would look like they were in front of this big, beautiful building. Albert Whitlock did amazing work in everything from The Birds to all these Alfred Hitchcock flicks to The Hindenburg to fucking The Thing with John Carpenter. And there are scenes in this, and you would never know they were there unless I told you, where the big zoo looks beautiful and it looks gorgeous, and you see these angles, and it's beautiful and stunning to look at. Most of that was Albert Whitlock, folks. He added a whole hell of a lot to the look of this motion picture. Are there any negatives in this motion picture? There's negatives in every motion picture, folks. It's just the way it goes. But is there anything glaring in this motion picture that kind of takes you out of the world that it's created, or takes you out of the world that it's set you in? Not really. As this movie ages, you're going to notice it still kind of feels timeless. There's nothing in it that really dates it, visually anyway. You don't look at anything and say, oh my God, look at this. This is just fucking, we're going right back to 1982 in this. You know what I mean? Certain movies, as good as they are today, might do that. You see something like Manhunter today, you're like, okay, this reeks of the 80s. This reeks of the 80s. You watch something like Miami Vice on TV, you're like, this reeks of the 80s. The only thing that reeks of the 80s in this motion picture was the slightly hypersexualized version of this motion picture that you're getting. It was one of those motion pictures of its time where you had like a serious plot or a serious horror movie, and you know you were going to get serious sexuality thrown in there with it. I don't give a damn if it was a movie like, I, the Jury, or something like that. They were just slamming those things in there back then, or 9.5, all that kind of shit that they were doing at that time. You got that hypersexualizing. As soon as you watch this motion picture, you know, okay, every female in this motion picture is going to go nude. You know it. You see it. You just, as soon as you see them turn on, they're like, I know this is what's going to happen. I know this is going to happen. It has that feeling. And I am not saying that's a bad thing. Just throwing it out there. But that being said, that's the only thing that makes you feel like, okay, I'm watching a motion picture from that genre of the 80s, which faded out at one point and then comes back and then faded out and then comes back and faded out and then 50 Shades of Grey fucking back and whatever. Those kind of motion pictures roll in favor, roll out of favor, and at this point in time, Cat People was one of those motion pictures. And on a side note, one other thing I got to bring up. There's a song in this motion picture with the lyrics by David Bowie, and I think Moroder did all the music for it, called Putting Out Fire. Oh my God, I love this song. It was in this motion picture soundtrack, obviously. It was on the David Bowie Let's Dance album, which I owned way back in the day. Love this song. If you ever want to talk about a song with words that actually fits the motion picture so perfectly in vibe, in tone, in lyrics, you almost can't pull the song Putting Out Fire out of Cat People without it affecting Cat People and without it screwing up the motion picture. It's just the way it goes. It's just the way it's always going to be. Anyway, folks, get out there, check out Cat People. Really good motion picture, often forgotten. Sometimes people love it, sometimes people don't, but I always did, and I always thought it was a very, 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 very shamefully overlooked movie. When people look back at the horror movies of the 80s, they did the horror countdown here and the horror look back there. Cat People almost never gets brought up, and I think that's a crock of shit, because it was a really good motion picture that everybody should see at least once. Be good, take care, see you soon, stay out of trouble, stay safe, and above all things, beyond no exception, take any shit from anybody. All right, everybody. See you soon. Bye.